Hello, gorgeous. I'm Tammy. This is I Am Inspiring Women. And this week we have another great interview.
Hi, this is Tammy with I Am Inspiring Women, and I have Heather Parady here. Thank you very much, Heather, for I appreciate you being here and your patience. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So thank you for having me, Tammy. It's awesome to be here. I am an online entrepreneur. I was a mental health therapist, and about 3 years ago, left that field to pursue the digital space full time. I fell in love with the ability to impact a lot of people and just the unlimitlessness. That's not even a word, but I just made it up.
It's a new word.
Of the internet and the space. So I started a podcast and a brand called Unconventional Leaders, and it's been growing and plugging away at that for a few years. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love that you're building that. So actually, what got you started in podcasting? How did you decide on that niche?
Sure. So I think you should always lean into your strengths, whatever you enjoy and whatever you're naturally good at. So at first I thought that blogging was the way to go because a lot of the people I knew were blogging and that was kind of the hot thing at the time, except I don't like spelling and I hate writing. So I decided that talking came a lot more naturally for me and I loved connecting with people. So podcasting was just a fit.
I love that. I found the same thing. Writing is just not my thing. What kind of limitations or challenges did you find when you first got started?
Most of them were self-imposed. I mean, there were definitely technical things that I needed to learn, but the truth is you can learn almost anything through Google and YouTube. The thing that kept me back was just my own doubt and fear and the growing pains of putting yourself out there, as I'm sure you know, Tammy, and all of the ups and the downs that come with that. Mm-hmm. There is a technical time side to it, but the biggest hurdle was for sure all internal.
And getting the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you have to have a bankroll or did you have bootstrap it? How did you get started? I know podcasting's kind of unique in that way.
Yeah, it's not very expensive. Really, I recommend people all the time start where they're at and grow and develop because what you think you want to do at the very beginning ends up changing so much as you go. Because one of my favorite sayings is you find your voice by using your voice. And so a lot of times we feel like we need to have so many things lined up before we begin. And I really advise against that because you're never really ready. And so it cost me probably less than $20 to start my podcast. I learned everything myself and just grew and developed it as I went.
I love that. I love that you were able to do that yourself and you're growing amazingly well. So mm-hmm. It's something that's obviously can be done. How about your family? Did they, were they supportive or think, oh my gosh, she's crazy. She's completely changing what she's been doing to do something that's just what?
Well, I mean, my husband, he knew who I was when he married me. And I told him when he asked me to marry him, I said, you don't want to do that because your life is going to be up and down and crazy because I don't want to live a normal life. I want to travel and go against the grain and do weird stuff. And I don't want to say in one spot and, do the traditional thing, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think you need to find what makes you happy and lean into that. And I've always kind of led a disruptive life. I like change. I like moving and going and doing. And, I'm the opposite of most people where, people need to figure everything out. I'm the opposite. I'm going to jump off a cliff, build a plane on the way down, So he knew that going in. So, I mean, it's never ending. Podcasting and shifting my career was, one of many, many, many things he's had to endure. It's kind of the blessing and the curse of being married to me. It's, he always says you're a lot of fun and you're adventurous, but you're also a pain in the ass. Like it's really, really hard figuring it out. So I think ultimately, he wanted me to be happy. And I got the degree, I got my master's and, we moved out of state and I got my license and I got 2 job offers and I just bawled my eyes out when I got them. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And he said, Heather, most people don't cry when they get job offers. They're excited. So just do what makes you happy. And so I have. And the perk of that is, it's taken a lot of work, but now I'm at a point where I have a lot more freedom, a lot more flexibility. The income's a lot better. Like everything's better. But it took a lot of sacrifice at the beginning. And it took a lot of courage. And it took a lot of saying, you know what? This doesn't make sense, but I know deep down in my heart, this is what I'm supposed to do.
So then how did you know, what point did you get at? What point were you at when you decided this is it? I'm successful. I'm I know that this is going to work. I mean, was it making enough money to support yourself, or was it actually just, I'm doing what I want. It doesn't matter how much money I make, but I'm here.
I think there's always time where I'm like, what am I doing? And I still have those moments. Like I still have inadequacy and fear and all of that. And still sometimes second guess myself, but it's this knowing inside that what else would I do? Like, would I always wonder what if? And so I would say the moment I sent the rejection emails for those job opportunities, I felt successful before I had even done anything else, because I knew I was being true to myself and that at least I tried. If I failed, if it didn't work out, if it all went, to hell, like, I knew I tried. So in the midst of all of this, I've felt successful along the way. There's been ups, there's been downs. It hasn't been all pretty, but I feel really good about what I did, because if anything else, like, I knew I laid it all out on the table.
And following your heart, following your bliss is actually easier than trying to fight against yourself to do something that you really didn't want to do.
Sure, exactly.
Do you write goals for yourself? I mean, do you have like a set, okay, I want to do the X amount, I want to do this many podcasts?
Oh, yeah. I am a goal machine. When I first started off, I set the goal to do 100 podcast interviews before I gave myself permission to quit. Because this is the thing. A lot of times when we set these goals, it's unfair for two reasons. Number one, we set a goal that we don't really know if we're actually going to like it. And that's what's so difficult about the education system, is we set these goals for these degrees and these jobs, but it's not until you start doing it do you actually figure out whether you like it or not. There's a whole different thing between planning and learning and actually doing. That's why I always push my clients, people I work with, do, go, take action, hit publish, just like stop, because you don't really figure out what you enjoy until you start taking action through it. So, so what was your question? I just completely went blank.
Whether you have written goals of,
Yeah. So 100% I have goals to go ahead and take action, but those goals change and adjust. And I don't think you really know what goals to set until you're in the process of making it. Action creates clarity. That's one of my favorite quotes in the world. So I have like a 5-year, I have all of that, but I know it's going to be completely different. But yeah, the 100 episodes. So I gave myself, that goal at the very beginning and said, you know what? That's enough episodes to know that I tried. And if I hate it, I'll give myself permission to quit. And I actually told my listeners, hey, I'm doing 100 of these bad boys, and then we'll reevaluate from there. And I completely forgot about that. And on my 100th episode, I had listeners emailing me saying, congratulations, you hit 100. And I was like, oh, I completely forgot that was my goal. So it was pretty cool.
Once you get into it, you're like, yeah, I actually like doing this. I'm having fun. And this is amazing. So what kind of stuff do you do for personal development, self-growth?
I have a pretty strong morning routine. So I believe in the holistic. So we're going to, treat mind, body, and spirit. So I exercise almost every morning, something, and I read, I meditate, I do breath work, I do gratitude, and I do journaling.
God, you're my soul sister. I love it. Every morning, like clockwork. Yep. And it's so important, and so many people put themselves aside and think, no, I don't need this, or I can do it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow never shows up, so you got to do it right now.
Exactly.
So as far as like your daily life, are you a planner? Do you kind of go with the flow and just whatever happens? I think, if I am correct, I heard kids in the background, so I'm thinking you have kids.
I do.
How does that work with podcasting?
Yeah, I'm very type A, very plan goals, all that stuff. It's interesting because I'm also very spiritual. So there's this interesting balance between planning and going after something, and also to surrender and knowing, and especially with the coronavirus and things happening, because, I have an in-home office and I work completely online and digital. And so I'm used to being by myself and having working hours. And now everybody and their mommy's, daddy's uncle is in the house right now. And it's just been interesting. So I've had to let go of a lot of my planning. And now I use a basic stick-it note right here where I identify the 3 to 5 things that have to be done today. Because although I would, normally have my project management system with all the things, this virus has given us the gift to figure out how to prioritize and really understand what tasks move the needle. Because a lot of times there's tasks that keep us busy and there's tasks that actually move the needle. So I'm sharpening that right now, figuring out, okay, this is what Asana says you need to do. We have to figure out 3 things that you can do today because that's all you can do.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that those of us who normally work from home are also learning that we need to prioritize particular things that we haven't been prioritizing before.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people think, oh, the only ones who have been affected are those who, go off to a job. And no, all of us have in some way, some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of stuff do you do for fun? On the
I really I love my work. My podcast, the show, TikTok is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I like being outside, going on hikes and camping and running is really kind of my happy place. Traveling is huge for me. I love going new places and road trips. But I can honestly, genuinely say doing what I do is fun for me. I love it. And that's what, my husband, he's very different than me. He's like, he has like work in life. And for me, they're kind of blended in together because I love what I do so much that I don't really just see like, oh, this is work time and this isn't, you know what I mean? Like I would do this all the time if it wasn't for my family.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I wonder if that's a guy thing. I don't know that it is, but my husband's the same way. He can, this is this and this is that. And I'm like, no,
yeah.
I don't understand that thought process. Yeah. So do you have other women who inspire you?
Oh, sure. Goodness. Oprah is my girl. Like I love Oprah. That's my life goal is to meet and interview her. It will happen. I think she represents so much of just where she came from and what she's been able to build. And then her interview skills are next to none. I love Ellen. She's funny. That's why I love TikTok and where we connected because it's where I can introduce a lot of my kind of light-hearted humor side because the show's very heavy and my work is very heavy. TikTok's given me a way to kind of let loose and be ridiculous, which is really who I am.
Oprah, Ellen is amazing.
Elizabeth Gilbert, she's one of my favorites. Big Magic. I mean, there's a lot of incredible women in the world.
There are. I love that. What's your favorite book?
Oh man, I have a lot of favorite books. I love anything by Brene Brown. Big Magic, just mentioned that. That's a fantastic book. Seth Godin, I'm a huge fan of his. Got to interview him a couple months ago, which was amazing. Oh goodness. I love reading. I'm in like 3 books right now. So
yeah,
but those are probably
I do the same thing. I don't think I can read just one book. It just doesn't happen. So last couple questions. What's something that you would like to leave, a message that you'd like to leave other women, young ladies, girls to be able to look forward to or to expect out of life?
Expect out of life. Well, I think you get out of life what you put into it. And the only, like I mentioned earlier, the only person who's really holding you back is yourself. And the truth is we all have insecurity. We all have fear and doubt. But I think that the thing you're drawn to, the thing you're curious about is there for a reason. And like I said earlier, you don't want to live a life where you're wondering what if, and most of the people we worry about, women especially, are really hard on themselves, like what people think of me and all of that. Most of the people we worry about aren't going to be there on our deathbeds. They're not going to be there for the long haul. So why are we letting them dictate our life? There's always going to be someone who's judging you, but you really judge yourself more than anything else. And so live a life that makes you happy, live a life that makes you proud. Don't leave any cards on the table. And I think, there's also a lot of guilt with, moms and grandparents and all that we have to be everything for everyone else. And I know I've gotten a lot of crap before from people because they're like, you have 2 daughters and you're doing all these things. Don't you need to be a mom and, do this stuff later? Okay, cool. But one part of being a mom is showing them what it looks like to be a strong woman and what it looks like to go after your passions. And, my kids are going to do different things than me, but I hope that living a courageous life will inspire them to face their own demons and to take the unconventional path themselves. And so I think being true to yourself is the best gift you can give your kids. And yeah, just don't apologize for it. Screw people. Do your thing,
Ultimately, they really don't care anyway.
Truth.
They really don't care.
Yep.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Well, I want to have really good relationships with my girls and let them be just really incredible, strong women. I think what they're going to do with their lives is probably the greatest legacy that I could ever give. Second to that, I want to leave behind hundreds of thousands of shows and pieces of content and media that change people's lives. Media has changed my life when I was really struggling and dealing with a lot of stuff. Tuning into other people's podcasts or shows like yours, Tammy, gave me a lot of hope. And the opportunity that I have to create that myself and share it with people from all over the world is such a gift. Because, we don't need permission to create with the internet. And that's what's so awesome. You can reach somebody in China right now who could be thinking about taking their life. And something that you share or something that you create can move that needle. And what an awesome gift that is.
It's powerful. If we don't take that step, like if you hadn't decided to follow your heart, the work that you put out wouldn't be there and it wouldn't be impacting the world in the way that it does. Mm-hmm. And so I really think you've already started leaving that legacy, and it's a great one too. I love that.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Last question. What's one question I didn't ask you that I probably could have or should have?
Oh, wow. Goodness.
And then answer it.
Sure. So maybe about, I guess, growing a platform, I think is an interesting topic. I just want to encourage people, if you're interested in growing your own platform, starting your own show, it's going to be very messy, and that's okay. I feel like I'm 3 years in and we're about to hit 300 episodes, and I feel like I'm just now getting happy with what I'm creating in the world. And we're so hard on ourselves because we know what we want to create. And then when we create it, we're like, it's kind of making a cake. You're like, oh, this cake's going to be so good. Then you look at it and you're like, this cake looks like crap. But it's like, until you just keep making 300 cakes, you're not going to perfect it. You're never going to perfect it in that first one. And it's just really, really hard. But again, we're way more critical of ourselves than other people are of us. People admire you and respect you and respect what you're creating just because you have the courage.
Thank you very much, Heather. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much for being here. It was an absolute, oh my gosh, such a pleasure. We will definitely be talking more because there's so many good things that you've brought up that I want to go over more with you. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate it.